I can't wait any longer.
Let's go.
I can't believe you committed suicide. I cannot believe you committed suicide. How could you have done this? How could you have committed suicide?
Damn, we need to make this thing even.
I can't believe it's you. Don't tell anyone. I'm not ready for this. Don't tell anyone. Thank you.
Hello and welcome all you Breen Weavers. I'm Neil Knipe and I hope you had at the very least a tolerable festive period. Here we are in a new year, and a new year that promises to be exciting for all of us acolytes of Breen. For on the first day of the year we are calling 2025, the Breenius himself did spake. And what did he spake? He spake, or tweeted, or X'd, that he will be filming his 7th feature film this very year. And again, he reiterated that it will be a very different film from his previous work. Right now, though, we will be going back to 2023 and Neil's most recent film, Cade, the Tortured Crossing, as we talk to Gwendolyn Brown, who played the not quite PC, rather unfortunately named mental patient. Well, one of them, there was quite a few. She reveals what happens when you're an hour late to an initial meeting with Neil Breen, having to mime being trapped behind car windows, and also lets us in on some of the cast's theories about the mysteries of the narrative, such as, who was the woman in white? Gwendolyn is the youngest person I've interviewed so far, and you'll really get a good sense of that when you listen to her talk, full of enthusiasm, optimism and good humour. It's refreshing to hear an actor at the start of their career who shows great gratitude to Neil for giving her a chance and has yet another different view of working in the Breeniverse and the art that came out of it. Were you aware of Neil Breen at all?
No, I was not. I know a casting director out here who, I mean, this is when I was first jumping into acting, really, and she sends out a lot of casting calls, and I set up an audition time with Neil, and I was like, oh, great. I didn't even think that I was gonna get some type of response to even set up a time. When I got to the place where I was supposed to go, I was actually, I think, like an hour late. And I could not find parking. There was no parking anywhere. I was driving around the place. And I was like, oh my gosh. And I was like freaking out because it was my first ever like audition interview thing. And I was super excited for it. And I was like painting a bad image of myself already. And I was like, oh my God, please, no, please. So I finally find parking. I think I communicated that to him. I don't remember if I did or not, but I eventually find the place. I walk in and he was like, oh, hi, I was just about to give up on you. And he was like totally fine with it. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm like almost over an hour late and you're still taking me. That's crazy. So in the actual audition and interview process, it was really interesting because it did not go how I thought it would. He didn't have me actually do any really auditioning. I think he might have seen some things that maybe I've already done and maybe that was good enough for him. But he did tell me, that we would get an opportunity to show lots of emotions and lots of different expressions. And he's like, if this is your first time, like you'll definitely have a lot of things to play with. And I was like, okay, great. This would be great. Like I don't have anything under my belt yet, so having multiple things would be great. And then pretty much from there, we went over signing the contract to the movie, and he was telling me that I'm not allowed to talk about it with anybody. Like, I cannot tell anyone anything. And in my head, I'm like, all right, okay. Because I was like, I had no idea that he was as infamous as he is. I think infamous is the correct term for him. But yeah, so I signed the contract and everything. I was super excited about it. And we went from there. He told me to tell everyone that I was going to some telemarketing thing or like, I don't know. I was like, okay, sure.
Do you wonder why that is? Do you ask why that is?
So honestly, I didn't even ask. I was like, all right, if that's what you want, I guess, because I also didn't really feel like I was in a position to even press about that since it was my first role and I was like still kind of jumping into the acting world. But once we got to set for the first time ever and I met everybody and I saw this huge, just like dome room of green screen, I was like, whoa, what are we doing in here? We all were kind of just talking amongst ourselves after meeting each other, like, what do you think this is? What do you think's going on? And it kind of made it fun a little bit because I would go to the set every day that he would call us to come, and I'm like, I have no idea what I'm doing. There was no script. I still don't even know my character's name. I think I had a few different names. He was like, your name's gonna be Megan. And I was like, all right, I guess I'm Megan or something, and then you go into the actual cast at the end of the movie and it's just mental patients. I'm like, okay, so I don't even actually have a name.
Is there any discussion amongst the cast as like there's a man in his senior years here, he's asked us to come here, we don't really know what we're doing, there's all this, was there any concern at all?
I don't think so, because he did give us a little bit. He literally just told us that, or at least in my audition with him or interview, he said that we would be in like mental patients in a mental facility. He did say that much, and I was like, okay. I think with the cast that we had there, I mean, the acting pool in Las Vegas is also really small. We pretty much know it. Like, if you're a consistent actor or actress out here, we pretty much know everybody in this group. And it's kind of funny because I've already been in. Okay, so like Jeremy Chavez, who's also in this film. I think that was my first time meeting him, and I also acted with him in another movie on a separate set. And I'm like, hey, what you doing here? So it's kind of funny, but no, I don't think any of us really had any concerns. I think we were all kind of in that same boat of like, this is interesting. Like, I wonder what this is going to be. And we were just all really open-minded. And so that felt really nice.
So why is there that secrecy then with his projects?
I think it's because he knows that a lot of people are looking forward to seeing his stuff and he doesn't want anyone to know anything about it, doesn't want anything leaked. Like, he wants it to be a complete element of surprise. At least that's what I got from it. For the longest time, I didn't think there even was a script. I was like, do you even know what you're doing? Of course he does, but like, I was just wondering if he was just winging it or something. Maybe he had a general idea and was just going for it. But eventually, at one point, he did pull out a binder and it was a script or a list of shots and like what we should say. And I was like, oh my God, it exists. There's a thing. Like, I didn't even know that it did. But I'm pretty sure nobody else on set except for him had any script.
So how did that work when it came to do your scenes then?
He would tell us literally exactly what to say and how to say it. And it was kind of funny because we would all take turns doing the exact same scene. Especially the one of my favorite ones was this scene where we go into the green screen room, just records us just punching air. And we all go and do the same thing, and we do a couple of karate kicks. Some people like threw in a couple of different moves, and then in the movie in post, it's us fighting each other at the end. I don't know if I hope everybody noticed that in the movie, but like, you will see like my blonde hair sticking out from underneath a burglar mask. Yeah.
Was that explained to you? Was there a reason for that? Was an artistic reason, or was it just it's easier?
I don't know. I think it was just so that he had, I mean, personally what I think is so he had safety of shots, like making sure that he gets all of us doing the same thing. Maybe one person did it better than the other and he'd rather use that take in post. There was also this other scene, like some of them he did explain a little bit, just to give us an idea of what we're probably going to be doing, but then in post it's still a complete shock. Like, people will ask me what the movie's about and I'm like, I still have no idea, and I was in it. But there was this one scene where I'm supposed to fall to the floor and he was saying that a tiger was going to be like pouncing on my back, and I was like, ooh, this is going to be exciting, like I want to see this in the film. I don't think I ever saw that shot in the film. There is the part where I fall to the floor and get up and start running, but it makes zero sense. I still don't know why.
There is a scene, isn't there, where the scene when you slept over at the mansion, you get up, you wander outside, you
That's
were
exactly the
attacked, but then you run
Mhm.
back.
That was the scene that he said that there was gonna be like I was gonna be running through a little bit of like a boneyard almost, and that I was gonna get pounced on by I think a tiger. I'm pretty sure it was a tiger. I don't think the tiger part ever happened. I just fell and started screaming and running. So essentially, she was supposed to just be, I think, having some type of nightmare, maybe either a nightmare or she actually went out. Mhm.
How have you got in the institution?
I have no idea. We all kind of, so in the beginning when we first started filming, he kind of told us all to make up our own story about ourselves. I think somebody wanted to be like a drug addict. That was one of the reasons why they wanted to go in there. Mine was gonna take a little bit of a darker turn as far as assault on women, because I still wasn't sure how I didn't know anything about this movie. I was like, how serious is it gonna be? Like, how much do I need to do? Once I took it there, he's like, let's not go there. He's like, let's do something a little different. And he was like, maybe you're just really scared of needles. And so I was like, okay. So that's pretty much what got me there as a character. That was one of the things that I really liked about working with Neil is like, you had the freedom to kind of play around with your character, even though it doesn't necessarily get played across on the screen, but it was certainly fun.
So just to go back, what were you doing before this? Was that something you were actively pursuing?
Yes. So at that time, I only recently started going into acting. I probably officially started chasing that career November of 2021. And so I got that role in, I think, late March, early April of 2022. So it wasn't too far after the fact. My first acting thing that I've ever done was actually as an extra in this Hulu TV show called The Wedding Season. But other than that, I was really just trying to get out there and network and figure out more about it. Because I've always loved acting. I've always loved singing, dancing. I've always been that person, but growing up, I've been told a lot to be realistic or, you're just not the type of person that gets those things. And I think a lot of people deal with that belief. And at some point I ditched it. I think you have to hit a couple of rock bottoms before you realize I might as well go do what I want and see where that takes me because this isn't it. So yeah, I started it and I haven't stopped. I don't think I ever will. And I like my life a lot more now because of that.
So
Right.
this role with Neil, this is
Mhm.
something that's set you now on a trajectory?
I don't think it was my role with Neil. I don't think I've really gotten too much exposure from that. I think most of those movies are all centered mostly around Neil, which for me is fine. I did get a couple of people though on Instagram that reached out to me and were like, "Hey, were you the one in this movie?" And I got this one really awesome DM from somebody in the UK who saw it in theaters, and he asked if I was the one in the movie, and I was like, "Yes." And he's like, "You are a legend." And I was like, "Thank you." It's hilarious because even as someone that's a cast member, I couldn't even go to the theater to go see it because they were all sold out. And same with the film festival that it showed at. I was like, I can't even get tickets to go see my own movie. That's crazy. I didn't even think it was gonna be like huge like that because again, I still didn't really know too much about him.
Well, did Neil hold a premiere for the cast? Was there any kind of screening?
Yes, he did. It was at a local library here. And it was, just us in the cast. And I will say I didn't know what I was expecting from it, but he really does his job making a movie, quote unquote, so bad that it's good, is what people keep saying. So, 'cause I couldn't stop laughing and also cringing at the same time. And I think for that, he's definitely a genius because I was like, you really hit the cringe level factor there.
Do you think
But
that's
yeah.
intentional? Is that intentional, do you think?
I feel like at least 50% of it has to be. I think he does know the effect that he has on his audience, but I also think it's just he really wants to express whatever he has in his own mind in his own way.
Did you just see the film at that little cast premiere, or have you seen the film with an audience?
No, I have not seen the film with
So
an
just with-
audience. I want to.
But when people are laughing, or like you said, cringing, how does
Mm-hmm.
Neil react to this?
That I don't know. I haven't seen that personally, but I do know that we were all laughing in the film premiere. I think Neil was having a good time with it too. He seemed to think it was also funny. He definitely deserves all the credit for that. So
What was quite different about Cade compared to Neil's previous works was this is entirely shot on green screen. How did you find that as an actress?
I thought it was really fun, but also really challenging. There was this one day, and I felt so bad because I think I actually made Neil upset with this scene because I just couldn't get it right every freaking time. Oh my gosh. There's this one scene where I'm supposed to be having an attitude with Nicole, but where you are placed and where you are standing, you have to be very like tight in that little box that he places you in, because if I move my arm too far to the left, all of a sudden it's eaten by a wall. There was this box that I was supposed to throw down, and it's really hard to restrict yourself like as an actress from expressing the amount of emotion that should be in a shot like that so that you don't mess up the green screen. So I kept throwing the box too far, and just the whole green screen part, like it messed with me that way. And another thing that made it so bad that day was, we're in like this kind of like dome green room, and it echoes, and I was dehydrated that day, and I started getting a massive headache from it, and we had to keep retaking the shot. And I'm someone who's dedicated. Like it doesn't matter for me how many times it takes. Like I will try to stay there until we get it right. He wanted me to hold a death stare at her at the end, so the one scene where I finally get it right, I forget to death stare her at the end, and he's like, "Whatever, we're going with it." I was like, "Okay." But he got upset with me because I kept like giggling my way through it because I was laughing at myself like, "Oh my god, like I can't get this." But as a director, he was frustrated. I was sorry.
You're telling us the restrictions of using green screen in this way. So why do you think Neil had that insistence on complete green screen in this movie?
That's a good question. I wonder if he just wanted to test his abilities as far as like what he can do, especially with filming locations. I'm wondering if he really liked the aspect of like, I can be in so many different locations and make it look even wilder than you could with physical locations.
But are there other elements that make up this green screen, walls and things? I know there's bits where you walk through tunnels and such.
Yeah, so it was all just careful placement of where we're at. Yeah, we would just put marks on the floor, and we would tell her, like, he would tell us, okay, you have to make sure you don't pass this line because this is a wall. But physically, there was nothing there.
So there's no kind of green walls, which then...
No, that probably would have been very helpful, but no, there was not any of that. There was only a couple of times where there was actually anything out on the floor for us. I think there was a bed, a green screen table, so we could pretend that we were falling.
Does anybody ever kind of question Neil about this? Or was there talk amongst yourselves about, well, why are we doing it like this? Or why don't we know this?
I think a lot of it was mostly amongst ourselves, because Neil was kind of in his own little world of like, he knew what was in his head, and he was like, we need to do this, we need to get this done. So we were all kind of like, what do you think it is? I think it made it fun for us because we could theorize about what it could be. Yeah, and then like I think me and Landon had this one scene where I think we dared each other to make the weirdest faces on screen. I think Landon's might have gotten used, or it might have been Eric's, but it was funny because it's all of us just repeating the same exact scene, so we would all go up and take turns repeating the same thing.
And is that even down to lines as well, that you're all saying the same lines and he's cherry picking what he wants?
Yes, in a lot of the scenes, yes, but then in certain scenes it was no, you say this specifically and you say this specifically.
And with the fight scene, was there any choreography there? Was there any training?
Nope, not at all. Just whatever we could think of. Like, okay.
And why was it then filmed? Why was that
Mhm.
done separately and not with two people at the same time?
I think it was so he could make it look more like a group, like he did. Like it's a lot easier to put one person in multiple different spots than a group or couple of people in multiple different spots without making it look like we're just seeing the same two people fighting.
But I'm kind of thinking when it's just a two shot of two people fighting again. So do you think that's just the same because it was just easier just to kind of do it as the one? And
yeah, I think he had more flexibility to do it with just one person at a time. Because I know that there was multiple shots of us taken in bad guy clothing and then our regular mental patient clothing.
how did the filming go? Was it a smooth process?
I think so, for the most part. I was excited to go to set every single day because I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing today. This is going to be fun.
And is that partly due to Neil coming in and knowing exactly what he wants and being prepared?
Yes, that was definitely very helpful, yeah.
What day really sticks out as just a great day on set?
Oh, I think it would actually be the one where we were in the mansion. I thought that was hilarious. We would all have these little backpacks on and like travel outside and we're just like, wow, love this green screen. Like that was fun. And then we would just all like kind of stockpile behind each other and like go like walk in a single file line towards one corner and then just like stop on each other. The mansion was fun because we all laid on the floor and played dead. I think my other actual favorite one, and I almost forgot, is the one where we did the dance choreography scene. That one was actually really fun. We all made that dance. We all kind of just picked one move. Like we said, okay, you make up a move, you make up a move, and we'll just mash them all together. It was a lot of fun. I liked that because it gave us all a chance to provide our own little thing into it. I think that was the best way it could have gone instead of having like an actual choreographer. It would have been too professional for that scene. And I think it also just plays into the fact that we're a bunch of mental patients, like it just being these quirky little dance moves. I don't even remember what dance move that I came up with, but it was a lot of fun. We actually started getting into it. Oh, I think it's the one where we're like snapping and going to the like right and left. I think that was the one that I did.
Is that a dream sequence?
Like no, we weren't supposed to be dreaming. It was supposed to be just like a fun thing, like almost like the doctors at the mental facility wanted to throw a little ball for their mental patients, and then everyone's just all in this room, and then the guy starts playing on the piano, and we just decide to start dancing, and it was supposed to be like this flash mob type thing, I think is how he described it. He said, whatever you can come up with in 10 minutes, we're going with that.
What was maybe the toughest day on set?
We had to come to set one day, and there was this green screen table placed in the middle of the room, and we had to lay on it and, to an extent, pretend that we were falling or flying, in a sense. I don't remember what scene that was used in. And I think he only used one person's take on that, but that was hard because we had to balance on the edge of the table, and it was such a core workout. And I was like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, I'm trying to think if that was used and what scene.
I haven't seen the film since the premiere. I want to see it. Like I wanted to go get the DVD. I was waiting for it to come out officially so I could go get it because I don't know if he's sending it to us.
Is there an overriding message to this film? And Neil's quite famous for his messages, anti-corruption or environmentalism and such. But is there a strong message to this one?
I haven't really thought about it in that aspect as far as like what kind of message it could be sending, because I still have yet to figure out a lot about the movie.
We know, of course, Neil does his own catering. We know at the start of his movie career, it was platters of sandwiches. Now we get to his 6th film. What are we getting now? Has it been upgraded at all?
No. We came to set, like, very interesting, the stuff that he brought, but it felt very much like I was going to, like, a kid's birthday party, like that type of food. There was a bunch of chips, like Lay's potato chips, I think the sour cream and chive potato chips, what we would consider just regular chips out here. And then there was these little packets of sandwich meat, like turkey and chicken, and I've honestly never seen it like that before, and I was like, wow, that's interesting. You just rip it open and put it on the sandwich. There was mustard and ketchup, hamburger buns. I don't think there was lettuce. There was cheese, like the American cheese that you like rip open the plastic around it and place it on the bun. And I think there was also some bananas and then cases of water bottle.
Were the inmates being kidnapped from the streets? Because there seems to be scenes where people are on the streets in alleys and stuff and are being taken.
I don't think that they were on the streets. When someone was being taken, it was the mental patients just being taken by the bad guy in this film, which I think is supposed to be his brother, played by Landon. Landon had a rough day that day because he was carrying a lot of people, including myself.
Who is this tiger girl, this lady in white?
I think she is supposed to be his mother or ex somebody. I think mother, though.
Is that just what the cast felt, or was that explained to you by Neil himself?
Not explained at all. I don't know who that person is. I think I saw them for the first time ever when I went to the premiere. I was like, oh, there's another person in here.
Where does this theory come from?
I think it's just what I've gathered from it. It is about like 2 twin brothers. I feel like it would be fitting if it was some ex-lover or a mother that's like, I'm proud of you.
When was the discovery made about the hands on the glass in the car?
Yeah. So I think the windows were too dark. And I think also the reflection was an issue, but he wanted us to be banging on the glass and it just didn't work with the windows rolled up, and so we pretended that there was glass there. But I think that just makes it even better.
Was Neil aware of that before you got on set, or was that something that they discovered trying it with the windows up, realizing it wasn't going to work?
I think it was with trying it first.
Why do you have a broken leg in one scene?
Yeah. So that was to demonstrate we were supposed to be all a bunch of broken mental patients because of what these bad people are doing to us. And essentially, when Neil takes over and he starts taking care of us and like injecting us with some superhuman formula to create us into warriors, the whole point of showing us in the cast was to eventually kick them off, to be like, wow, I'm suddenly fixed. I'm great again. I think it was 1 or 2 days that we wore casts on our legs. And I think somebody was in a wheelchair too.
So you guys were being injected with some kind of serum as well?
I believe so. I wouldn't want to say I confirm that because there's still a lot of moving parts in this movie that I don't understand. But from context clues that I've picked up on, and from with working with Neil and like what he said about it, and then also just like trying my best to pay absolute attention to the movie, it's not like he was actually physically training us. Yeah, like that. There's this one scene where a doctor is like, I want to see where my money is going. And there's like a mental patient on the table. And I think that is something to allude to those experiments. Yeah. And I think Neil was supposed to be the one that took us in the middle of the night to inject us with stuff. I'm not even sure if I'm getting that right.
I didn't necessarily pick up on anything about the rest of you being given powers by Cade.
Yeah, because we're all in there's like that scene where we're all in our hospital beds, and we're all like whimpering and like sick, broken, all of that. And then he says like just wait or something, like you'll all be better soon. I don't know. But I think that was a clue that he is doing something to us as well, but in a way of helping us, but also for his own gain as making us into warriors.
We know that there's the winged warrior, that her wings are on upside down. Do we know how that came to be?
No, honestly, I didn't even notice they were upside down.
Oh.
That's just hilarious that they were, though.
Were you playing the same character all the way through? Because there's times where there's one scene when you're talking to the police officer and he's saying, you know, I would do anything I can to help you, and you're very positive. Oh, yes, yes, yes. And then it looks like you kind of die at one point, but then you're back at the end. Were you playing the same character all the way through?
Yes, we were. We were all the same mental patient, aside from when we were pretending to be a bad guy and fighting ourselves. I think that's the only time that we weren't the same character. And I think most of us did die, but in some way, I'm not sure how exactly, but I think that was like a part of Neil's character's plan, was for us to get to that point and then we come back much stronger.
When you watched the film, did you like the film?
Yes, I did. I thought it was really funny. I was so hoping to see if I could find out what the film was about by watching it, and I think it made it 10 times funnier that I still couldn't really figure out exactly what was happening. But that just made it better.
And where has this led you now?
So a lot of the roles that I've gotten after Neil, most of them, I would ask a lot of people that I work for. I'm like, have you ever heard of Neil Breen? A lot of them are like, no, who's that? And I'm like, okay, well, all right. So I wouldn't necessarily say that I've gotten any roles specifically because of it. However, there was this one person who reached out to me. I think they live in Texas. They wanted to do a film in Texas, and they were a huge fan of Neil Breen, and they wanted to work with me on something, and I thought it was great. However, it was just not something that was doable for me to go to Texas and film all these things. So I would have really liked to, but that would have been one of the roles that I would say were because of the role that I had with Breen. But since Neil Breen, I went on to do a horror movie with a director named Joe Lujan. He is the founder of Carcass Studios, and that's also where Jeremy Chavez is also on there. It's called My Little Nightmare. I also did a Halloween Falls horror short film. It's a fan fiction with Michael Myers in it, and couple of other short films, especially with the Carcass Studios. I've made really good friends with them, and we are actually releasing another film that I just did with them. And there's this one that's called 'Twas the Night that is being released by them. It's a horror twist on like characters like Jack Frost and like a gingerbread guy, and it's really creepy in that aspect. And then there's the Gray Ones, which we just finished, and it's actually a little bit built around a true story, something that happened to his sister. And so the main character in the film is supposed to be based off of his sister and her own personal experience with extraterrestrial things.
We know quite a bit now about Neil as a director. What's Neil like as a man, as a human being?
He's very much, he keeps to himself a lot, and he's just very driven on his films. That's what I've seen from him, but that could also just be from an actress looking at a director. But yeah, he's very reserved. We would get into some interesting discussions with him, but mostly about filming and the filming community. And like, we also talked about, I think somebody asked him a question about making his own films, and he mentioned one of the reasons why he has his name on like everything is because he just doesn't want anyone else to touch it. He has all the rights to everything that he does because it's all under his name. Other conversations, like he would crack jokes here and there. He was definitely fun to be around, but then would get, into director mode and go back to being, okay, let's get this done. Serious. But other than that, I would say he was very chill to be around, very casual.
About how the reason he has his name and everything is because he kind of doesn't want other people to touch it. Is that a control issue? Is that because he doesn't want anybody else to touch his vision, or is it a kind of a financial thing? Or
I think it's both. He did touch on the financial aspect of it, and it's less of a headache if he just is in control of everything. So I think that's where also that control aspect comes in. And I think also, yes, he doesn't want his vision to be construed by anyone else.
If he brings Cade back for a third time, if he returns to these characters, would you be willing to come back?
Oh, definitely. Definitely would. 100%. It was so much fun. I would do it again.
So have we solved some mysteries there, or merely raised more questions? Please feel free to give your opinions in the comments section of wherever it is you're digesting this. Could the lady in white be Cade and Kale's mother? Did Cade's warriors all die in the end only to be resurrected? And did they get their extraordinary powers and upside-down wings from experiments committed by Cade? Thank you, Gwendolyn, for talking to me. Yet another lovely, warm and open person who I've had the privilege of speaking to. I appreciate your time and generosity. If you want to know more about Gwendolyn, then you can see her credits on the Internet Movie Database by searching her name. But please go and give her a follow on both Instagram and TikTok with the same tag, which is Gwendolyn, that's GWENDOLYN._.Brown. You can also stream for free her last two movies, The Heiress and My Little Nightmare, on the platform Foursome. And both of these films also feature other familiar faces from Cade. Right, let's get this bit out of the way first. Please rate, subscribe, like, share, spread the word, etc., etc. I know you must get sick of hearing it on every single podcast and YouTube video you listen to, but it is said for a reason. Next episode, we'll be sticking with Cade, The Tortured Crossing, but also journeying back to Neil Breen's debut feature, Double Down. It's another double guest podcast as we hear from two people who worked behind the camera on Neil's first and most recent film. Now, just before I go, I thought I'd just tell you about a little new addition we have to the Breen Podcast family. I have taken on a new pet, which I hope might become a mascot for this podcast. It's a white tiger, or bleached tiger, as they can also be known. I've called it Brixie, just a baby at the moment. It is a rescue animal from a zoo, which was due to be closed down. And she sat right beside me now. Aren't you, Brixie? Oh, she is a little rambunctious, I've got to admit. She's climbing over me now. Okay, Brixie, calm down. Okay. No. Ow, Brix, that hurts on my leg. Brix, ow. Oh, you little bugger. Ow. It's, ow. No, not the leg.
You've been listening to My Scene with Breen, a Neil Breen podcast and a Bite My Thumb production. Your host was Neil Knight. Bite My Thumb can be followed on Twitter or X at Bite My Thumb, on Twitch at twitch.tv/bitemythumb, on YouTube at bitemythumbtv, or on Letterboxd at bitemythumb. All music was written and created by Cotsplays. He can be followed on Twitch at twitch.tv/Cotsplays, where every Saturday morning at 12 p.m. he'll be making live music. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, share, and rate this episode.